Hello everyone. I thank you for joining us for the next episode of Just Because We Are Curious JBC, our knowledge and experience sharing session. Today's session, I'm sure, is going to be very interesting and very insightful for all of us. And I'll tell you why. I have been in consulting for the past almost 2 decades now, and I have seen a clear shift in terms of the way organizations look at the work that we do, in terms of the way they manage and engage talent. And let me tell you the shift that I've seen. Initially, most talent development initiatives were managed by HR as a function, and nothing wrong in that. But the challenge was the involvement of the business was very minimal. And this is the reason why I say today's conversation is going to be very interesting, because today what we have done is we have requested a very senior professional from the industry who has been on the business side for multiple decades, who has been on the forefront in terms of designing and deploying talent and development initiatives in his organization. And we are speaking to him to hear his thoughts as a business leader in terms of what he has seen working for himself and the organization on ground when it comes to managing and ensuring talent delivers. Rajesh, Rajesh Aggarwal has been, is the commercial head of operations of Asia at Bayer Animal Health. And as part of his role, he manages a 400 odd organization which rolls up into him across 13 countries. Now that's a phenomenal diversity that he's managing in his business. I have a lot of respect for Rajesh because I have seen him get very hands-on in terms of the work that he does for his organization, for his team members. He has a very good view in terms of who is talent in his organization and how he needs to manage them. Rajesh, thank you for taking time out. I'm really looking forward to a conversation with you in terms of understanding your views on why talent management is important for an organization. That intrinsically we all understand probably, but what is your view is something that we would understand. Why is it important for business to get involved in terms of managing talent? So thank you for taking time out, Rajesh.
Thanks, Prashant, for having me on this platform. I'm really looking forward to this conversation.
Thank you. So let me begin, Rajesh, by picking your thoughts in terms of this broader topic of talent management, talent development. As a business leader, while it is important, we all intrinsically understand, but if you could give your thoughts in terms of why do you feel it is important for business to get involved hands-on in terms of designing and deploying talent development initiatives. Your personal point of view, why did you personally feel it is important for you to get hands-on along with your HR colleagues? If you can share your thoughts, I think it'll be
No, Prashant, it's a good one to start with. I think my involvement with talent development actually goes back a little while. I've been in the industry for quite some time. And it all started off because we realized that we were using essentially what HR captured as talents, and then we were asked to sort of develop it. So for me, this journey of talent development actually goes back a little bit in essentially, first of all, identifying a right talent. Over the years, unfortunately, many of us in the organizations have been doing this in a manner that we brand somebody as a talent if he or she brings consistent, solid performance on the table. Now, whether this is really right or wrong, we have to think about it a little bit. And this was happening a little bit more when HR was completely in the driver's seat, so as to say. And that is where I think a business inside, a person who is actually hands on with the business, gets a better feeling of that particular person. So, and in some cases, we were doing even worse. We were actually labeling somebody as a talent only to motivate that person for a short period of time to make him feel or make her feel nice about the whole thing.
Very important point you are making.
So
It was used more as an engagement initiative.
it was more
rather
as an
than a
engagement
development.
initiative and rather than as a development initiative. So I guess we have to keep performance and potential and talent and sort of performance separately in a little bit of a, they are integrated at some level, but you have to also sort of keep them separately. So for me, I think talent identification is the core, and that is why for business it is important to become hands-on. And talent identification comes from the fact that you have to observe the attitude and a behavior of an individual, especially in zones which are not comfortable to that particular person. You have to see whether that particular person has aspirations, wants to do well in the, and throws up her hand or his hand in all situations, etc. So, having seen somebody doing this over a consistent period of time and then backing it up with solid performance could actually label that particular person to be a talent. And for me, I think it is important that business is closely overseeing this particular activity, and that is why talent is very the talent development is an important part for my own sort of being presence in the organization.
Wonderfully said. And I think what you're saying is ultimately you are the consumer of the talent. The talent delivers for you. You cannot be away from the process per se.
So, just to sort of close on this point, Prashant, if one is able to identify a real talent, then at my level, I will do whatever is required to actually develop it,
Perfect.
together with the help of HR.
Perfect. Perfect. So Rajesh, I have been involved with Bayer, for various talent development initiatives for the past few years, and I know for a fact that Bayer is fairly mature in terms of its people management process and is fairly well respected in the industry. I want to pick your thoughts in terms of how do you see as a consumer of those talent development initiatives in Bayer? What has been your experience over the years? What are some of the benchmark processes that you have personally been involved with, and something that you personally are very proud of, and you say, wow, this is something that we are doing right from talent management point of view? What do you want to share with our listeners?
Yeah, I mean, Prashant, I've been around in Bayer for quite some time.
Yes.
So this has been really a long but a very exciting journey. I remember a time when I was sort of sitting in front of my manager and we would talk about this development topic only maybe once a year, and largely the focus was still on business objectives and very little to do with the person.
Yes.
And then we would put it on pen on paper and file it for future reference maybe around the same time next year.
Yeah.
So development, it is not true that there was no development, but it was perhaps a bit ad hoc. And then we all embraced technology and managing and documenting the conversations, the discussions became far more easier, manageable, simpler, and accessible.
Yes.
And around the same time, I think in Bayer, what we sort of encouraged people was to have regular conversations at least twice in a year between manager and the employee, where they actually have to find time talking about an individual's development activities, development plan as well. So the focus was still on business, but I think development started to have far more meaningful conversation and dialogue in the whole topic. And this went on for some time, etc. And I think there was obviously certain good returns which were coming. People were feeling much better when they were also being talked about what are their aspirations, what are their preferences, what they would like to do in the future, etc. This also lasted for some time, but then we globally also rolled out what we call the 16 competencies.
Yes.
8 were core competencies which we expected everyone to have in the organization, and 8 were leader competencies. Now, I mean, I can go into details of all these competencies, but probably this is not really the time.
Sure.
And I think then the conversation and these kind of sort of topics became that we first measure an individual on the competencies, find out in which competency an individual is strong and which are the competencies in which an individual needs to be brought forward. And then we would have discussions also around the fact that how an organization can help an individual in fulfilling these gaps which were identified. So this also lasted for some time, and that was also part of the development dialogue. But recently, what we have done is actually gone one step further, and this is probably benchmarked globally with high performing companies and high performing sort of similar as well as similar companies, etc. And what we have now, what is called a talent card. Now, talent card is integrating an individual's development plan with his or her personal objectives, business objectives, and then we sort of measure them in a dynamic environment. So we don't have these exercises only twice a year or so. It's an agile setting, and more real time, and you can actually go on and do this as periodically as the supervisor wants, as the leader wants, but also as much as the candidate wants. So this has become very different, and this integrates everything. So from competency profiling, an individual's development plan, the performance measurement metrics, and I think it's really something which people can identify themselves and see it really in one single place on how exactly their development will take place in the organization. I think this is the way to go. It's a little too early for us to sort of experience it, and people obviously when anything changes take some time to sort of settle down. Yes. But I believe this is really benchmarked, this is really global, and this is the way to go for the future in the organization.
Wonderful. This is a very interesting concept, the talent card. So it sort of accumulates all talent the aspirations of the talent. It's strengthened on one sort of single view, sort of a.
So there is a single view where you can actually see the performance of an individual, yes. His or her goals, yeah. His or her strengths and weaknesses, his or her competency profiling, individual development plan, also mobility preferences, next target role which can be assigned to that particular person, and where exactly that person finally wants to reach. So this is all available in a structured manner which can be sort of visible and accessible to HR, to the leader, and to the candidate, to the employee himself. So I think it's great. But having said that, I think the process, the fundamental sort of in the process is the fact that we want to create an environment in the organization, and that is where I think business leaders play a major role. We want to create an environment in the organization where an individual holds himself or herself responsible for his or her own development.
Yes.
They need to own it.
This is very important, that every individual needs to own their
own development. So it should not be seen by an individual as if this is my boss's responsibility or my manager's responsibility or HR's responsibility. We also want to ensure that each leader, each manager takes this particular exercise, review of talent in a very professional environment, and also get HR to bring in new processes and benchmarks and tools on an ongoing basis. So creating and enabling an environment where an employee and a manager, with the help of HR, can actually discuss this openly without any fear or favor, and really then start to implement it and follow it up to see what are the outcomes and what are the results.
Wonderful. This clearly sounds very exciting journey that the organization has sort of undertaken for itself.
Oh, it's been some time. I mean, there have been hits and misses. And one can't say that everything was perfect. One can't say everything is perfect now. But I think we are learning, we are adapting, and we are happy that we are doing both, learning and adapting. And we are also finding that the organization is finding it more friendlier and more sort of focused towards the development.
So Rajesh, you of course are a great example in terms of a business leader who owns development for himself and his team. Tell me, what's your view in terms of the larger cultural context, your compact rates? How has this whole mindset of talent development, business leaders, what's your view about the larger organization, your compact rates, your one downs, your down the lines, in terms of having that same mindset? Because so many times it's more of a mindset thing than anything else. How have you been seeing that shift happening elsewhere in the organization, and what have you done to promote that mindset within your
Yeah,
teams?
so Prashant, I think this all starts from the top. Yeah, it's all starts from the very top.
Yes.
And until unless the leader of the organization shows personal engagement and involvement in this particular topic, I think the organization will not pick it up. So it is important that some of us who are in leadership positions
Yes.
take a personal interest in this particular important topic. I mean, business achievement of business objectives is important,
Yes.
but this can't be done until unless we are talking about the people as well.
Yes.
And now with the changing scenario and what is happening around us, people are interested to know what is there in it for him or her. And
With him, as we call
yes,
it.
and until unless we are able to sort of make this visible to the organization, it doesn't help. It is also important that it doesn't remain a hearsay.
Yeah.
It doesn't remain also only verbal.
Yes.
They need to sort of see it around them, they need to experience it, and then only they will start to believe it. So if I recall my conversations with my line manager, who's based in Germany, is basically that we speak less than 50% on business topics. More than 50% we are actually only talking about, we are only speaking about what are we doing together to bring forward the organization, what are we doing for more to bring forward our people, etc. And if people around us see this actually happening, and if people see HR and business leaders genuinely bringing this forward, walking the talk, then I guess it starts to percolate down, and then business sort of people in the lower in the organization, they also sort of start to pick it up. So we have started to see that our organization, many people talk about this particular topic. They're interested in their own future. They want to know what is the organization going to do for them to bring this whole topic. So I believe that this is catching on. It starts off from the leader, but I'm relatively confident to say at this point in time that this has gone deeper in the organization, and I'm glad about it.
So wonderful, Rajesh. I think what you said, it all starts at the top, is a fundamental truth that every organization really needs to realize and appreciate. Your personal involvement is something that I would want to explore a bit more. If you could share any initiative that you have personally, which is top of the mind recall, and I know you have done this n number of times in your entire career, but if something, one particular example that you would want to share with our listeners about where you have been personally involved, something which has personally been very satisfying in terms of outcomes. If you could share one such story with our listeners in terms of what the business problem was, how you got involved, what did you do about it, and some insights in terms of what it was able to deliver in terms of outcome. I think that will be a phenomenal story for all our listeners.
Yeah, no, I think great question, Prashant. Then maybe if you bear me out, I share with you not one, but maybe two stories.
More the merrier.
Yeah, so this one of this which happened at our Indian business is sometime back actually. It's not a recent story. So we had started this business and we were going through this sort of honeymoon phase where our growth, the challenge was to how to manage growth, and we felt the need to retain talent and nurture talent, etc. So we started a program which was also sort of fine-tuned with the rollout of our global values. So at that point in time, Bayer had rolled out its global value system, which was simply called and understood as LIFE, L-I-F-E. Of course, each letter had a lot of meaning and character behind it, but we took a positive spin from that LIFE, and we called this initiative My Growth, My Life.
Wow.
So this is something which was aimed at the front line. And we wanted them to go through this experience whereby they get exposed to senior leaders, they do some stretch assignments, some project work, which is not in the sort of regular realm of their day-to-day working, without sacrificing anything which they needed to do on a day-to-day basis. We assigned them coaches, we assigned them sort of training material, and did all what was required to actually bring them forward. And this, we took it over a period of 12 months or so. And I'm so happy, though it happened so far away, I'm still so happy to know that, that we had many of our frontline guys getting into frontline management positions coming through this program, etc. And over a period of time, we were actually able to institutionalize this particular program. So the gateway for any assessment for promotion in the organization was that you have to go through My Growth, My Life, successfully participate in this particular program, which ran over a period of 12 months, etc. So I'm delighted many of those colleagues now are at senior level positions in the organization. So we feel that we were able to do our job reasonably well. Of course, this was not done only by me, but we had a management team who sort of supported this, and because this can never be one man's initiative. However, the other important thing which I want to share with you, Prashant, is that having seen the success of the program, the corporate HR in South Asia actually picked up this particular program, fine-tuned it, and today this runs as a flagship program, development program for young talents in the entire Bayer organization in South Asia, but is still called as My Growth, My Life.
So replication is a great validation for any program.
Yes, I think that really sort of gives you a lot of satisfaction in that, some people have recognized it, and so better, if HR has also recognized it, and so it makes a lot of sense for this. And the other story is very recent, actually. We are in the process of a big change which is coming up in our organization. And we felt that we needed to equip our sales force far more better skilled and competent than what they are currently. They're already doing a great job, but we wanted to sort of fine-tune their skills, etc. And this you would know, Prashant, because we are tying up with Right Management in this particular program. And what we have done is to sort of have a common program for nearly 400 people in the organization across 10 countries, where we are running this initiative. And it's too early to sort of say what will be the outcome of it, but whatever feedback has come is very positive, and I'm sure that we will be able to make a meaningful difference to the skills and competence of our salespeople and equip them much better for success in the future. This also is something which is very dear to me, because we were trying this for the first time, that we were trying to have a common program for 10 different countries with different languages, different cultures, different work environments, and different levels of growth cycle and business cycle. So this was quite amazing, but I am happy that we collaborated with Right Management to sort of bring this forward.
Thank you, and let me tell you, it has had its execution challenges, but as you rightly said, the initial feedback has been very positive, Rajesh, and I think personally for us, it was very satisfying to be at the center of this, and your role has been phenomenal, let me say that.
Thanks.
Thank you, Rajesh. Okay. So Rajesh, you have been part of so many development initiatives. As a business leader, as somebody who is at the center of this, so many times it is personally very fulfilling when you see you invest on somebody and that individual bloom. Because ultimately, as leaders, it's pretty satisfying, and I can speak that from personal experience. Tell us about some of these stories that you have seen of people around you on whom you have betted, and they delivered at the end of it through an initiative. And and if you could share some personal stories of such leaders, I think our listeners would benefit a lot, because I think ultimately it's a personal satisfaction of seeing an individual grow, which gives us so much of joy.
Yeah, no,
So tell
clearly, I
us.
think it's been a long journey in the in professional life, and there have been many such cases. But maybe I can share with you a couple of them.
Yes.
One of them, which actually happened quite some time back, 17, 18 years back. This was really one of the first ones of my experience as a leader then. So that's why I still remember it very vividly. So there was this colleague of ours, a young guy who was working at HR at that point in time in the organization, and we in the business were wanting to induct some management trainees. So I got in touch with this particular individual, this guy, because he was helping me out or helping us out in inducting some young management trainees for which we had some sort of project work lined out. And in my conversations with him, I realized that he's probably more suited to be with the business than with the HR. And this was sort of going on for 3-4 months. And this is just a sort of a stomach feeling, a gut feeling.
It's a gut.
And
Yeah.
sometimes, you have to play with these kind of gut feelings as well. So I liked him so much, and his whole sort of positive attitude and wanting to do and wanting to contribute, etc., and not keeping his job only as at the forefront, but wanting to help the business. That I actually ended up offering him a job with business, and he was very happy to actually move out of HR. Not my I would not let my HR colleagues know about this too much, but he was happy to move out of HR and actually join business. And this guy, with a certain amount of sort of investment in coaching and hand holding, etc., soon understood the business very well. And he helped us create a world class loyalty program in a business to business format, which is really very difficult to do this. And this was something which was happening for the first time in the country in that particular business. And this brought in a lot of reputation for us, and of course also some commercial success. So I believe that if sometimes you can sort of bet on some individuals after seeing some sparks, there is a chance that they will be able to sort of do what you are expecting out of them. Unfortunately, this colleague is no longer with Bayer. But I'm happy to say that he's currently working in a very senior position, at regional position at APAC level, for a serious multinational. And guess what? In corporate communications.
Wow.
So his journey has also been quite unique. He's moved from one thing to the other. But I'm happy that we sort of betted on him at that point in time. We gave him the sort of platform and opportunity to be in business and contribute, which was recognized by the organization, but was also recognized by our competition. That there is somebody who can probably bring even more to that particular organization. So that's one story, and I'm really very happy to know about him, that he's doing well, etc. We sometimes still exchange some words, etc. And the other one is a little bit more recent, but still been unfolding for last about a decade or 10 years of back. So we were starting this new business in India, and we needed somebody to help us out with business controlling. So we hired a young lady, pretty much at the entry level at that point in time. I don't know how to say this, but she didn't want to be at the entry level. As soon as she came, she would raise her hands for anything and everything in the business, and she would actually, if you sort of give it to her, she would do it well as well. And this went on. We of course supported her, guided her, coached her, and did whatever is required. But her hunger and passion to perform and to do better never was satiated. So she was always wanting something more, something to do more. So, and this was also a challenge for us, that what more can we keep on finding for her, so that we can keep her engaged and motivated in the organization. We did many things. Her role changed, her role expanded, her positions. She got sort of multiple promotions in the organization in a short period of time. And then we finally decided to send her on a short-term assignment to Germany to experience a new culture, to experience some sort of new work environment, etc. Eventually, she got an expat assignment as business operations head in the region. So she did that. And now, Prashant, I'm happy to share with you that she's a general manager of our business in a cluster of countries in ASEAN.
Wow.
So this is something which is a very exciting, and her journey is not finished yet. I mean, she's very young. She came to us at a very young age, and she's still very young. So her journey is still ongoing. So these are some of the examples which I can share with you, and there are many others as well, where I think I really feel enriched and fulfilled that I've been able to contribute something for the future of some of my colleagues in the organization.
Beautiful stories, I think, and both these stories tell us, how if you invest well, talent can become fungible across functions, and if you invest well and identify a high potential and invest well on that way, how the individual benefits and the organization benefits. Thank you for sharing these stories, and I'm sure it would have been fulfilling for you.
Oh, surely. I mean, I mean that I decided to share these two stories and not some others. It already is already a testament that these are close to my heart, and I have given me a lot of satisfaction and happiness as a professional manager.
Okay, Rajesh. So while we have spoken, the entire premise of this discussion is in terms of the involvement and the importance the business has to play on talent development initiatives. But it can never work in isolation, is something that we both understand. It can never be an HR alone's baby. It can never be business's initiative entirely. It has to be a partnership. So in your experience, how has a partnership worked for you in Bayer? What are some of the things that you see have worked well? Some of the things that probably at times, you feel probably, it leads to a bit of a confrontation is too strong a word, but a different point of view, I would say. So what are some of your experiences in terms of how has a partnership between HR worked for you personally?
Now, Prashant, I think you touch upon a very important, valid point. I mean, nobody can do this in isolation on his own. So, I mean, even if the business wants to do it on its own, they can't do it. So, it's been a collaborative effort. So, whatever maybe I have also shared with you so far, it can't be that it was only done by business. So, it has all along been a collaborative effort, and it has to remain a collaborative effort. HR has a very important role to play in bringing the development of the organization forward.
Okay, so now coming to the final leg of our conversation, Rajesh, I think it's time now to dig into your wisdom of so many decades.
I'm not too sure, but nevertheless.
It is. I mean, your stories have been insightful to say the least. And tell our listeners, I mean, if you zoom out and reflect back in terms of your journey for so long, what are some of the messages, advice that you would want to give to all other business leaders, HR, who are listening in terms of, and especially the business leaders, what are some of the top do's, don'ts that you would want to share from your experiences so far that you feel are going to help people manage their talent better? Your wisdom, Rajesh.
Prashant, this is a very difficult one actually, but nevertheless, I think in the end it is very simple. On one hand, it is difficult. On the other hand, it is very simple. What you need in an organization is basically three triggers. One, an employee who is willing to own his or her own development.
Beautiful.
Until unless there is an employee who is owning this will not work.
As the cliche goes, you can take the horse to the water,
but you can't make him drink. Yeah. So we need employees who are hungry for their development, who own their own development, and need not wait for somebody from HR or somebody from management to do this for them. The second one is that the business leader has to make sure that he takes this particular topic as seriously as the delivery of financial or business objectives. As long as we will have leaders who believe that people development needs maybe sometimes even far more importance than delivery of business objectives, I think we are on the right track. We are on the right track, and this is the second thing. And the third thing is that we need an enabling HR partner. The HR has a role to play, and they have to enable these conversations, they have to enable this particular topic. if this we can achieve, you can create a multiple talent development culture in the entire organization. So, in the end, it's simple. Whether it is possible all the time is not so easy, because sometimes individuals are not sort of willing to take it upon themselves to development. They continue to believe that it is the responsibility.
Externalize it.
Yeah, they do it. Sometimes HR is sort of stuck with their own ways of doing certain things, and business leaders are too busy delivering on financial or business objectives, etc. So we have to find out an ecosystem where all these three triggers are working together in harmony, in unison, in alignment. And my sort of plea and my urge to all the business leaders would be that somehow create an environment where all these three basic triggers can work in harmony, and we can bring this forward. So, in the end, this is what I would like to say, Prashant.
Rajesh, all I would say at the end of this has been a truly masterclass. Uh, Coming from a practitioner like you, this has been very insightful. Thank you for taking time out for sharing your insights. Our listeners, I'm sure, have benefited immensely from the insights that you have shared. Once again, thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation with you, Prashant, and I'm glad that I was invited to this platform. So, thank you very much from myself, from my
Pleasure.
side as well. Such a pleasure. Thank you.